Thanks for joining us today. And we are here to talk about financial planning and everything that you need to know about your finances as you're coming out of pharmacy school, or maybe you've been out for a while and you're just looking for more direction. So we have Bruce with us today. I'm going to kick it over to Bruce to let him introduce himself in just 1 second. But before we get started, I want to just put the disclaimer that this is not considered financial advice, and you need to consult your own financial planners to do so. This is for educational purposes only. Bruce, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, then get started on these slides?
Yes, if you're ready. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad you all are here. For those that don't know me, my name is Bruce Lafferre. Now I'm a financial representative of Western Southern Life Insurance, headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. Previous to that, for 25 years, I was the Pharmacist mutual rep for Eastern and Central Kentucky and kept an office in KPHA. So I know the rulings of KPHA and pharmacy and pharmacist and the struggles they go through. I know it very well. And hopefully today, I just want to bring to you some thought processes about elementary finance. We'll get into it. It's nothing heavy. Some people may think it's very simple, but God, if you take away the right thing, you'll understand when we get done. That's me.
So we'll go ahead and start the slideshow here.
All right. The first thing you have to remember, and obviously you got into pharmacy school for many reasons, but I'm guessing that one of the things you got in pharmacy school is with all your hard work, you're going to make a great living. I don't know what the current rate is, but a year or two ago, we were running about 100 to 110,000 a year for pharmacists. Your earning power is your single most important asset. And just to give you an idea, even when you graduate, if you're a 30-year-old person and you're making $100,000 a year and you've got 30 years to work, you're going to make 3 million. If you've got 40 years to work, you're going to make 4 million. And if you factor into that, you're married to a pharmacist, double that, or your raises along the way, or you have your own business, it's easy to understand you're going to be a millionaire pretty soon. So the most important thing is you're into a high income, high net worth potential profession. The question is, what do you do with your earning power and what do you have to show with it in the future? Next slide. These are the choices. As you graduate from pharmacy school, obviously the first thing you want to do is get yourself some creature comforts. Things like, where do I want to live? Do I want to own my own home and where? And obviously, if you're in pharmacy school, you're kind of going from rags to riches, if you will. And when you get out, you want to buy a nice big house and right into town. What kind of lifestyle do I want to have? Obviously, you want to have a nice lifestyle. You want to be able to travel. You want to be able to entertain. You want to have a nice car, late model cars. The second thing is you develop your family and you have children. You want your children to attend college just like you did, and possibly graduate school just like you did if they want to become professional people, doctors, teachers, whatever. You might want to start your own pharmacy one day or some other pharmacy consulting business. The next thing, again, we're down the road a little bit, but about what age do you think you might want to retire or switch careers? And finally, do I want to live strictly for today, or do I want to think about providing for tomorrow? Because that's a big piece of what we want to look at in the future. So if you think your life is a journey, all of these decisions are going to develop as you grow, as your family grows, as your career grows. If you look at different options in and out of education, you may want to teach, you may want to consult, you may want to have your own pharmacy or own practice one day. And then at some point in time, do I want to try to retire, and what's that going to look like? Next slide, sir. So most people don't plan to fail. They just don't have a plan. Taking control of your finances and your financial future can help you reach the desired destination in life. With that in mind, here are some of the hints we find helpful for many young people as they enter the workforce. Next slide. This is probably the most important financial rule that most people don't think about. They spend as much as they make, or they spend more. If you can learn to save and invest in a regular monthly expense, just like your mortgage or anything else, consider having a fixed amount every single month, whether it's deducted from your paycheck or deduct automatically from that, or some kind of a stock club, whatever. Also, as your salary increases, consider increasing the amount you automatically save. Why? For example, if you can save $100 a month for 5 years and invest it at 5%, you'll earn $6,800. You go out 20 years, you can save $100 a month at 5%. It's $40,000. If you can bump that up to a 10% investment, it goes to $75,000. So we're just trying to share with you, learn to set aside money for yourself right out of the gate. That's a very important tip. Next slide. How do you measure your income? And again, we're going from rags to riches. The budget is your spending plan. The best way to track your cash flow and keep track of what's coming in and out is develop a simple budget. And there's all kinds of systems available. But the only thing the budget really does, it tracks your income with your expenses over several months or a year. Tracking income is generally quite easy. Keep track of your paychecks and what other types of income you got coming in. Expense is a little more challenging. Generally, you can use bill or credit card statements, your checkbook register, cash receipts, and also all the little things that you don't think about. Entertainment, lunches, movies, days out, whatever. But again, try to keep a handle on that stuff. Next slide. Over the course of the month, the smaller expenses can add up, and you don't realize it, but it does. So we want you to think a little bit about two types of expenses. Non-discretionaries or fixed expenses, your rent, your mortgage, your food, utilities, insurance, car payments, everything your creature comforts. And these are basically, once you establish your lifestyle, that's going to be your monthly basic tip. And again, included in that is a fixed amount for savings every single month. So these are the non-discretionary that you're going to plan every month. Discretionary is what you have a lot more control over. These things tend to be a little bit more desirable, and it comes into clothing, entertainment, travel, hobbies, leisure activities. These are expenses where you can exercise a little more control. Once you understand it, you'll be able to make your lifestyle choices that can help reduce your discretionary spending and pay yourself a little more than simply just living into your paycheck. So a basic way of possibly considering budgeting is 20% of your income for savings or investing, 20% of your discretionary expenses, and 60% for non-discretionary expenses. We don't want you to be living in a shoebox and not afraid to spend money, because you're going to have a big income. But I've seen people get out of school and, my God, they start buying this, they start buying this, they start living a big lifestyle, they do all kinds of, and next thing you know, they're broke. And when I say they're broke, they're earning a living, but they don't have any outside savings or outside things that they're saving for. Next slide. So the budget is kind of how you keep track. What we're suggesting next is try to learn to become a little bit financially literate. Well, you don't have to become an expert. Try to think of a simple thing, the difference between investing and saving. Some people think these are the same, but they're not. Savings is primarily developing a nest egg. Money that's typically stored in low-risk vehicles, bank savings, CDs, money market accounts that really offer a fairly low return, but they're liquid. They're guaranteed. If you need, the car breaks down, or there's an injury, or you need a major repair to the house, you can go and get that money readily. The savings approach is approach for generally shorter term, and again has a high degree of liquid, but you can get to it. Investment, on the other hand, is emphasizing long-term growth. Investment vehicles would be things like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, things that offer greater risk to the principal in saving, but also offer higher returns for potential and offer protection against things like inflation. Most of these investment financial plans are a combination of savings and investments and are set up according to whatever your risk tolerance is over time. Some people want no risk. All they want a guaranteed. Other people, shoot the moon. I don't care. I want full risk. Others, somewhere in between. So one of the things you're going to learn is the difference between savings and investment, and then working a little bit about trying to understand risk. Next slide, please. The most important thing I can tell you today is the concept of compound growth. What compound growth means is the magic of earning a constant amount of investment over time and the earnings on that. What do I mean by that? If we assume, second paragraph, we assume an 8% return, this person puts 24,000 in an investment and lets it sit there for 20 years, it'll grow to 275,000. Because every single year, the principal and earnings grow, and the next year that grows, and the next year grows, and the next year grows. So the pot just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, important part of compound growth is the other person waits to begin investing the same 24,000, but does it at age 35 versus age 25. They invest the same 100 a month, but only for 30 years. Assuming this person realizes 8% return, the amount available is strategically less than the person that started early. The person that started at 35's got 150,000 at the end of the period. The person that started at 25 got 275. So the moral is, if you're going to start saving and investing early and leave it alone, because the person that starts early has got the advantage. If you wait 10, 15 years and you put the same amount of money in, you'll never catch that person. I'm hoping that's clear, because that's the most important. We'll show you a graph on that at the end of this thing. Okay, next slide. Now, we talked a little bit about risk and reward. There's risk in saving, investing, and it can't be avoided. Just like if you keep money in a mattress, there's always a chance the mattress could catch fire or somebody comes in and steals your money. The key to understanding the different types of risks and the relationships of risk to reward. For example, saving vehicles typically have no risk of loss of principal, a market risk. You got your money in a CD, you got your money in a money market account. The market goes to heck just like it does now with Trump's tariffs. That money's still there and it's sitting in that CD. You don't have to worry about losing the principal. Another problem, though, is liquidity risk. If you want your money and you need your money quickly, you've got to make sure it's sitting in a liquid investment like a CD or a money market. You need the money, you go in and cash the CD, you go in and cash the money market, and out comes the principal. So again, two types of risk, but they're generally low return because they're guaranteeing the principal. The only disadvantage of something like this with a low return is it doesn't keep pace with inflation. So this type of investment is subject to purchasing power risk. Investment vehicles, on the other hand, are a little different. They do come with both market risk and liquidity risk. And what I mean by that is if you got your money sitting in the stocks and those stocks suddenly take a dive like they have in the last 4 weeks, your 401k could have been a year ago, or a month ago, 500,000. Today it's worth 250. And there's always subject of a market going up and down. The other issue you might have is if you're involved in certain types of investments that are long-term and fixed, and you need the money now, if you're going to get out of that long-term investment, you might have to sell it and take a big loss on it and not get all your principal back. So again, these kinds of risks and things are things to think about in long term. But to handle these type of risk, these long-term investments have to offer a higher return and a greater accumulation over time. So it's a balancing act. We're not really going to eliminate all the risk, but it's a balancing act between how much risk are you willing to take for how much return. And it's usually a combination of many things. Okay. Next slide, sir. Diversification. Diversification is another concept that we talk about. And diversification is an investment technique to minimize the losses from an inevitable market downturn, which is going to happen. Markets are going to go up and down. And how you do this is you mix the variety of savings and investment vehicles in your portfolio. Some people will do more stocks and equity and less fixed bonds and things. Some people don't want any stock. They want all fixed. They go to bonds and other type investments like that. Some people want none of that stuff and they put it all in CDs or money market. So again, you want to try to mix it. You don't want everything sitting in one investment. So that if that investment goes south, then you've got other assets, so it's not going to take the impact as bad. For example, any of you may remember Enron. And Enron was a fast company that got put together in the late 90s. And one of the things Enron did was it was built on a house of cards. They decided to sell Enron to all their employees as a safe place to put their money. So they made sure that if the employees wanted in their 401k, all Enron stock because of the great value that it was getting all the last 5 or 10 years. And that's what people did. And all of a sudden, all heck broke loose. And within 4 months, the company was bankrupt and collapsed. And all those people lost all their life savings because all of their investment in the 401k was in one venture, their company stock. Now, because of that, you cannot put more than 10% of one type of stock in a 401k. You're in essence diversifying the kinds of things you're investing in so that as things change and go up and down, all your eggs are not in one basket. The other thing that people want to talk about is dollar cost averaging. Pretend, if you will, that every single month you're going to put $100 into your savings. As you put $100 into your savings every single month, that market's going to go up, it's going to go down, it's going to go up, it's going to go down. So as the market goes up, the price of the shares go up. So let's say for this month, you're buying 10 shares of a stock worth $10 a piece. Next month, the price of the stock drops and it goes from $10 to $5. Now, when you buy $100 worth, you're buying 20 shares of stock. Yes, your current stock that you've already got is worth 5, but as you buy the next amount, you're going to get a lot more. 3 months later, 4 months later, as the stock begins to climb, all of those shares that you were able to buy at a cheaper price will climb as well. So as the market goes up and down, you're buying a set amount of investments, but when it goes up, the value of your investment goes up. When it goes down, you're buying more shares. So over the time that when that investments go up, the whole pool goes up. And you'll see that in a minute. So some important tools to help you strategy when you look at your investments over time are diversification inside the portfolio and dollar cost averaging, where it tries to ride out the tide over time. Okay, next slide. Again, take time to understand your savings and investment, the potential risk and rewards. Anytime you do investment, there are fees and expenses and advantages and disadvantages. And there's way too much to talk about with this, but just understand that whatever you do, typically there are fees or expenses that you have to incur with these investments. Investment choices, again, just like people come to you for their health and they say, the doctor wanted me to take this, what do I do? Then you're prescribing and dispensing medications and helping the patients understand the medications for whatever conditions that they're being treated for, and make sure they're getting the right medications and helping them with understanding the right dosage and how to take it. So again, most of you would probably choose a financial planner, stockbroker, whatever, to help you make these decisions. Really would sit down just like they do in your doctor. You would pick a financial planner, you would sit down, and over time you would say, here's what I want to do, here's where I want to end up, these are the kinds of things that I think I want, my profile, my risk, I want this, and I need help. And every single year you monitor that to see what happens. Next slide. Again, we're at the beginning. Once you understand savings and investment and risk and the different kinds of things, you want to try to establish and monitor your financial goals. And again, it's fallacy to equate income with wealth. Sometimes somebody can make millions of dollars in a lifetime, but they can consume it through spending and just wasting it all away. There's no accumulation for wealth. Financial goals are your short, immediate, long-term in life. And it's important to start thinking about putting that money away and building for the future. And again, we talked about those. What are the short-term goals? What do you want to accomplish in the next year? Pay off credit card loan, pay off school debt, build an emergency fund, set up for a special vacation or furniture. And because of the short-term nature of these goals, usually fixed savings vehicles are the best bet for your money because there's no loss of risk in these things. Intermediate goals generally are those goals that go from 3 to 10 years. Buying a home, maybe starting a business. If your children are born, maybe setting up college funding. Again, more time is available to intermediate goals, and it's a combination of saving and investment. Next slide. Long-term goals, again, these are retirement planning. Again, because you just graduated, we're 35, 40 years out. But again, you want to at least think about that. Depending upon the age of your children, you're looking at, depending, maybe 15 years buying a college education. There are things called a 529 plan where you can pay for the college education up front and guarantee the price or fund for it. So by the time they're 20 or 18 or ready to go to college, there's a nice fund there to pull from. Again, with all of the ups and downs, right now people are running scared. If you would have said 6 months ago, my God, the world looks rosy. Well, the last 4 weeks, people all of a sudden are going nuts. They don't know what to think. Companies are backed up. What are these tariffs doing? The stock market's going down and on. So time ill takes care of a lot of ills. And if you look at how the stock market's gone up and down over the past 75 years, there's been a lot more growth than there has down. So a lot of things with long-term growth, you want to try to think of stability and not jerking your money in and out. Put it in a nice investment package and just let it sit there and grow. And over time, the market will grow up and down and up and down. It'll clear itself, and you're going to see that in just a little bit. So once you decide on the financial goals, you and your spouse, the financial plan then becomes the roadmap for reaching the destination. The financial plan provides the specifics of when and how much you need to set aside and how those funds will be invested in growth. And then you and your financial advisor will sit and monitor those over time and make adjustments as necessary. Okay. Next slide, sir. Got to plan on this. There's always an unexpected thing. So the fifth item is to build an emergency fund. There's always bumps in the road. And what we suggest in emergency fund is to try to set aside somewhere between 3 and 6 months worth of living expense at a minimum. If you can't do that, then 3 months for your first short-term goal. And it could be anything. It could be a major car repair, it could be appliance, it could be you're hurt, your child suddenly develops a major medical expense. It could be many different kinds of things, but you want to put these in a short-term investment vehicle that's safe and liquid. Without a safe or emergency fund, you could end up being forced to dip into your 401k or cash out some long-term investments or getting rid of some kind of a savings program or art collection or something. You don't want to do that. Next slide, sir. The most important thing and a big concept coming up in investment now is behavioral finance. Why do people make decisions? We want to make this real simple. Needs are essentials of life: food, clothing, shelter. Wants, on the other hand, are not necessities, but they do enhance the quality of life. Saving and investing isn't all or nothing, but you've got to try to learn to manage your needs and your wants. For example, you need food to survive, but you don't have to eat out 5 nights a week at Ruth Chris or Jeff Ruby. In order to keep your roadmap on course, you may opt to purchase a used vehicle versus a brand new SUV. Or you may decide, instead of going around the world, we're going to go to Hawaii or we're going to go to the Bahamas. Instead of living in $1 million house, we'll live in $500,000 house. Whatever the deal is, it sounds so elementary, but how many times have we seen where people can't control their compulsiveness? And the world is full of that. Credit card debt is not a sign of wealth. It's the most expensive debt you can ever have. And there's several cases of young pharmacists coming out of school. They get a great job. They're coming from poor deal. And the next thing you know, in 5 or 6 years, they go wild. They live in $1 million houses. They're joining country clubs. They're driving $100,000 cars. They're doing all these things. Unfortunately, you go through a divorce, you go through maybe 2 divorces, you go through child support, and next thing you know, you're broke flat. Now, I'm not saying that, everything's perfect and things happen, but if you can learn to control your desires and your wants, man, it makes it a lot easier. At least we're talking about it. But it's hard, and I'm telling you it's hard because I know. And most of the time, I got great deals in shopping, and I get these great 50% off, and I'm feeling good, but I charge it. And if I'm paying that balance off over a year at 24% interest, guess who made the money? Not me, the department store. So try to indulge yourself with the things you want in the luxury, but do it in a balanced approach by keeping your financial plan in front of you. Okay, next slide. This is the most important thing. Manage the debt. Beware of credit card debt. The amount of credit is how much money others are offered willing to lend you based on your ability and willingness to pay. Credit's an important part of our financial picture, and it's an asset if used correctly. But guess what? It's just like a double-edged sword. That thing comes right around, and God, credit card debt is the number one obstacle in getting ahead financially. The good part is you're at a great spot in the overall world of disposition and distribution of wealth. You guys are coming out with a great earning power. It's unlimited. And you know yourself, you make anywhere from $4 to $6 million. And at the end of this, it's how you want to end up. That's why we're talking about it now. Most people, as I just said, end up paying 50% more than the purchase price because they charged it. I don't know if you remember, but they ran a credit score. And I don't know if you know what a credit score is on everybody. Once you develop, you get out in the world and you start getting credit cards and whatever, everybody has a score, and it's generally 200 to 800. The higher the credit score, the much more significant you are in your ability to pay your bills ahead of time and the better credit rating. You have these young professionals that look at their credit score of 750, and then go into the car dealership and say, now, what can you do for me? I don't want to be paying these, low bottom, hard to get interest rate. I want the best interest rate you can find. And they're able to do that because of their great credit scores. People have poor credit scores because they don't pay, they don't have enough cash, they don't have the money, they've got all these bills to pay, and their credit scores start dropping. So if you're at a 750 credit score and somebody comes in and has a 500 credit score and you're trying to buy the same car, guess who's going to get the better rate? The person with the 750. The person at the 500, if they can get the credit and loan, they're going to pay a lot more interest than the person at 5. So credit scores and your ability to pay all impacts your ability to receive credit and get money. So manage the credit card debt. Don't let the debt manage you. Next slide. Now, this is something else we talk about. Once you get into the workplace and work for either a small pharmacy or a bigger corporation, most employers offer a tremendous variety of employee benefits at a great price. The other thing that most of them offer you is a retirement plan, commonly a 401k plan. And to encourage you to participate and put money into the plan, which generally you will elect to defer some of your salary in the plan, they set up a matching. For example, the company I work for, they said, okay, Bruce, we want to encourage you to save money to retirement. Therefore, we're going to match 3% to 3%. So if you put 3% of your money into the plan, we're going to match that 3%. Now, if I put more money in, that's not good, but at least 3%. If I don't put any money in, that's free money that I'm missing that might be available to also encourage me to save and help build my retirement plan. So be aware that there's extra money out there that the employer may be offering in savings and other things to help you build your savings and retirement. Don't walk away from free money. Explore the benefit package that your employer has. Next slide. If they do not offer a retirement plan, or even if they do, you have the ability to set up your own tax advantage retirement plan called an IRA. And in most IRAs, again, this is long term, in setting up your IRA, and there's dollar amounts that you can give based on your income. But generally, when you set up an IRA, it's for long term. All of the monies going in are tax deductible from your income in that year. The monies invested sit there and grow tax deferred. So if I'm putting in $5,000 a year into an IRA, in addition to $7,500 in my 401k, both those are tax deductible in the year that I make the deposits. And not only do they sit there and grow, but every single year when I put in there and those investments grow, they grow tax deferred. They're not taxed each year they grow. Now, when they come out in the year that they're paid, then they're taxed as ordinary income. But the whole idea is you grow it while you're earning. So when you get to your retirement age and you're on a much less income for Social Security investments, you're going to be taxed at a much lower rate. So the whole idea is that you're using additional retirement programs available as an individual to help you build your retirement program. Now, I'm only going to mention this and not get into it. Because of the lateness, many people said, I want something that I don't want to be bothered by taxes down the road. So along came this vehicle called Roth. And a Roth IRA is the same type setup. I'm putting money in an individual retirement plan, but the money going in is not tax deductible. But all of the growth and everything that's in there, once I start to take it out in the back end, it comes out completely tax-free. So there are tax advantages that way where I don't have to worry about the taxing of the income coming in. Either way, there's an individual program in addition to your retirement to help you plan for financial planning for retirement in a tax advantage way. Okay. Next slide. Again, we talked about building diversified portfolio, whether it's in the 401k or the IRA. You want to spread your investment choices around between equity and fixed and short term to balance those out. Or there are plans that are balance plans that do that for you. But again, you just want to make sure you don't put it all in one vehicle. And that's what your financial advisor should help you with. Next slide, sir. Once you've done all that, and we're thinking about financial literacy, at the base of the financial pyramid is we've got to think about protection. And protection is in the form of insurance. Because if I had a crystal ball, I'd make $1 million, but I don't have a crystal ball. The reason we purchase insurance is to manage uncertainty. What are the kinds of insurance? Property casualty. We don't have any idea when we go home, all of a sudden, somebody's going to pull out in front of us and smack that brand new SUV and destroy it. How am I going to pay for a $100,000 car that's 2 weeks old? That's what insurance does. I've got a brand new, beautiful house, and along comes a tornado and blows the roof off of it. Along comes a hailstorm and just terrorizes the whole roof. A fire occurs inside and burns, or a tree falls, or all those things are handled by property casualty insurance. The other type of liability insurance is professional liability insurance, which I'm telling you, you better get it, and it's dirt cheap. So if you make a mistake in the practice of pharmacy and somebody gets hurt or somebody gets killed, then you've got professional liability to take care of that. So that's the professional liability. Life insurance, again, you need somewhere between 7 to 10%, 7 to 10 times your income is the amount of true insurance you need. And again, there's various types of insurance. I would recommend for a new pharmacist getting out of pharmacy school, at least $1 million. I mean, you're coming out at 100,000 salary. Your debts are 2, 3, 350, 300,000. $1 million is a good number, and then grow from there. Again, if something happens to you and you're dead, that money's created to take care of your loved ones and take care of that lost income. Disability, another another important thing that's often overlooked. Now, you can get it through your employer, but again, because of an accident, because of a sickness, an illness, you suddenly get knocked out. You're in a major auto accident that leaves you paraplegic. You suddenly have a heart attack. You suddenly have a stroke, whatever. You suddenly get COVID and it attacks you and leaves you permanently ill. You're done. You cannot earn a living from that point on. And Social Security isn't going to do much for you. So again, look at professional disability to replace the lost income. Health insurance, that's self-explanatory. You've got to have health insurance in case catastrophic. Critical illness, you may look beyond and say, okay, in addition to my comprehensive health, Blue Cross, Aetna, United Healthcare, I want to buy a critical illness where in case of a stroke or heart attack or diabetes or whatever, there's an additional amount of money created for that. And then finally, long-term care. We're down the road a little bit, but long-term care is you're unable to take care of yourself. You're not needing critical nursing home care, but you're unable to take care of yourself, bathe yourself, dress yourself, feed yourself, continence every day. And that's what long-term care insurance does. So the type of insurance and the amount you need is, again, under the analysis of a financial professional. Okay, next slide. Lastly, we're not attorneys. If you have dependents, regardless of your own, you really need to have a will, which is going to help distribute how you want your assets to pass and guardian for your children in case of a premature death. Without a will, the laws of the state will determine who gets what at your death. Now, husband, wife, it's pretty simple. It passed to the other. I don't want to get into a big thing here, but you really should have a will, especially if you have minor children. And that part, the only thing we're going to say there, that has to come to the guys of a professional attorney. But at least just like a living will or a power of attorney, you go in the hospital and you don't have a living will, and somebody says, nope, we're not going to turn these machines off. We're going to leave you on life support. Some people don't want that. Well, if you don't want that, you have to have a living will that says, okay, somebody's going to be able to make this decision and do it. I don't want to get into more, but that's what a will does. Okay. Next slide. I think that's the end of that portion. That's the end of that portion of the slide. What I want to do next is to take you all into an illustration of long-term savings. Can you pull that up?
Yes, 1 second. Let
All I want's
get
the graph.
me.
It doesn't matter which one. Should have one with the graph on it. That's it. Now, this is a mutual fund that we're going to pretend is an IRA. This IRA was established in 1985 with $7,000 a year going into it. And every single year, not only did the money go in tax deductible, but all the earnings and everything stayed in there and grew. And what you're going to see is the total amount of 7,500 over a 35-year period grew to almost $2 million. That is the power of cumulative investing. That is the power of what happens when you save money, invest money over a long period of time and let it grow. Learning to pay yourself or set aside 200 a month or 300 a month in a pension plan and just let it grow. And if you leave it grow, even though we've got these ups and downs, this is an actual historic performance between 1985 and 2024, what $7,000 a month would be in one of our funds. And the average return on it was about 10%. That's my most important thing I want you to take away. I'm in Walgreens one day in the Highlands, and I'm talking to a young pharmacist. And this woman, who is the head pharmacist, comes over and said to these two young pharmacists that just got out of school, said, "You better pay attention to what he's telling you, because he's going to tell you that if you're smart, you'll start saving." And I said, "Who is that?" Said, "That is our chief pharmacist of the store." So I went over there after I got done and I said, "You're pretty smart. What are you trying to tell us and what's the story?" She said, "Well, I graduated from the College of Pharmacy at UK in 1970, and I started to work at Walgreens. And every single month I put away 15% of my pay in the Walgreens stock, and I left it. Now we're at a period of about 2004, 2005, before all that crazy stuff started happening in the mid 2010, 20. I said, "Well, if you did that, then you probably got some money." And I laughed. I said, "You're a millionaire." And she said, "Yes. My Walgreens stock today is worth $2.2 million. Now, there's two ways to earn a living. One way is to work yourself to death and spend every bit of it. The other way is to take some of that money and let that money work for you." And that impressed me, because then all of a sudden, when you got that kind of investments and retirement behind you, you're not quite at the will of everybody else. Somebody says, "Hey," in fact, the last 4 or 5 years, employment in the pharmacy field has been rocky because many of these jobs have been eliminated. And about 4 years ago, a couple of these chains told, I think Kroger's the one that started it. They started 5 or 6 years ago. Everybody over 50 went to 30 hours a week, and they had to pay their own benefits. Well, God, if you still got kids at home and you got mortgages, that's a big bite to have to bite off. And then they said, "Well, what is the alternative? Open your own pharmacy." No. If you could have thought about something like this years ago and had the fortitude to put money away and let it grow for you, now somebody comes and tells you some of these things, you're sitting in a lot better position. That's it. That's the only thing. So the takeaway is learn a little bit about savings, learn a little bit about finances, and learn to pay yourself first once you get out. Okay. Any questions? Thoughts?
That was great and very informative. And yeah, I want to thank you, Bruce, for your time today and your knowledge and experience. And if it's okay with Bruce, I'll leave your contact information.
Absolutely.
And if people want to reach out to you about anything, Bruce has been around this for a long time, and he knows a lot of different people in pharmacy, so he's a good resource to have.
Yeah, again, just to take away and use it. My God, you're coming out with a tremendous income, tremendous ability to get into it. My God, and make use of all of it. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Have a good day, buddy, and thank you.